Hi, my name is Heather Milliner. This is my video presentation for SC 540. I chose my topic to be on handling ethical and legal issues as a school counselor. One of the main responsibilities of being a school counselor is not just your following your ethical guidelines and standards, it's your commitment to your students, which includes many aspects. The responsibility of a school counselor is something that, to me, was one of the more important things. Responsibilities of a school counselor include aspects such as being fully trained and qualified to meet the demanding and varying needs of all clients, being able to obtain certification in your specialty area or field of choice, being completely committed professionally and personally to staying up to date with the most current development in your chosen specialty field of counseling, conduct and participate in research studies in order to contribute to the advancement of counseling and to increase your knowledge in your specialty field and as it pertains to meeting the needs of those students that you're helping or clients. Actively participate in a professional organization. Be knowledgeable and follow all legal and ethical guidelines related to counseling in your specialty field. As I stated in my introduction, your knowledge, a counselor's knowledge of their ethical and standards and guidelines is very important. Following those counseling standards and code of ethics really sets the stage of a clear understanding of what a counselor's responsibility is and who they are. It is a counselor's responsibility to read, understand, research, and follow the ACA Code of Ethics and abide by all applicable laws and regulations. A counselor is expected to promote positive change in the individuals they are counseling so that it improves their quality of life. You want a positive influence on them. You want them to know that you really do care about their well-being. Being competent. Competence is very important. To maintain competency as a counselor, an individual must only accept positions or jobs in which they are fully trained and certified to work in. Understand and know your professional limitations and stay within those boundaries. Be able to consult with professional colleagues. When a need that causes you to question your abilities as a counselor, don't be afraid to ask a colleague, for their opinion, or, even if a referral was to come up, if it's an issue that needs to be addressed. Be able to consult with your professional colleagues, as I said, when something comes up and you are questioning your abilities as a counselor. If you know that you're not confident in the problem or the issue that has arose, be confident in asking for help. Continue to update and expand your knowledge about counseling practices. Arrange for referrals when you determine that a client's needs are beyond what you can do. If it's beyond your competency, you've got to be prepared to refer those clients to somebody who can help them. Conduct, which is very important with a counselor, and not just as far as how you speak and what you say, but just your appearance, your body language, how you respond to statements that clients or students are making. They watch us. Counselors have a responsibility to adhere to the ACA Code of Ethics, are willing to stand up, protect, and take action for the standards of counseling. Hold colleagues and yourself to the same professional standards and ethics. Develop strong, positive relationships and communication practices with colleagues to improve client services and meet their needs. To solve ethical concerns or problems, be professional and seek advice from your colleagues and supervisors if you cannot resolve the problem. If an issue comes up that you cannot solve or don't know the answer to, you need to reach outside and get your colleagues and supervisors to guide you on how to help that client. And again, if they don't have the answer, a referral may be necessary to meet the needs of that client. Participate in ongoing professional development at the local and state level and nationally. Keep up to date with the current topics that could affect the changing needs of all clients. Legal concerns and issues. I'm going to start with government actions and requirements. There are certain amendments and titles that all counselors have to abide by. Again, it follows meeting the needs of all those clients. The Buckley Amendment gives the parents of minors the right to inspect, evaluate, and challenge the information inside their child's records. Within this amendment, a counselor is required to get written authorization before copies of any educational records be released or given to a third party. That written documentation has to be on file before any records can be released. Title IX of the Education Amendment of 1972 states that all clients are protected from sexual discrimination. Education for All Handicapped Children Act, a guarantee that all children, regardless of any type of disability they may have, has the right to a free and appropriate education. Legal concerns and issues. Continue with government actions and requirements. Instructional Materials Accessibility Act. This folded into the first reauthorization of the No Child Left Behind Act. This act ensures that all children with any type of disability are entitled to equality of instructional materials. In other words, they're still can have access to the same type of instructional materials that any other child would receive, but if it needs to be altered or changed to meet their needs, it can be. Americans with Disability Act ensures that regardless of any type of disability a person has, they cannot be discriminated against. Americans with Disability Act ensures that regardless of the type of disability a person has, they cannot be discriminated against. And this is to include like required public buildings, public transportation, accessible to everyone regardless of whatever their disability may be. An example would be like for adults and children who might have a wheelchair, they have to have accessibility to schools and public places. If they were to go out in like restaurants, anywhere that people would visit, they have to all be accessible to meet those needs. Legal concerns as far as malpractice and limitations. A counselor must know their competency limitations and only practice within those boundaries. These boundaries of competence should be based on their education, training, supervised experience, and professional credentials. This ensures that all clients are receiving the best care they can receive with their needs being met. Multicultural counseling competency is also required in all counseling specialties, and a counselor must understand their professional boundaries within this area when working with a diverse population of clients. Again, that goes back to if you're in a situation or a counselor's in a situation with a client or a student and they're unsure about their competency level, they need to consult with their colleagues, or even if they have to, refer the student or the client to someone who does specialize in that area. Common types of malpractice. Inappropriate record keeping. Keeping data on a student that is unrelated to the student's education and well-being. Violating confidentiality without proper reason or cause. Not following the ACA Code of Ethics. Legal concerns as far as privacy, confidentiality. And the one statement I put on here is trust is the building block of confidentiality. You have to build that trusting relationship with your clients and your students, and they have to feel like that you do care and you trust and that you're going to be there to listen to them and for their well-being. Confidentiality. When information about a student is only disclosed to those who have a legal right to know, parents and educators as an example. This also applies to testing material and discussions between the counselor and the student. Of course, on the same note, when you have minors or in a situation where the child is a threat to themselves or a threat to others, we know that we have to follow standard protocol, and it does have to be reported. Privacy pertains to all records of clients, but with the exception of a minor, parents' rights, of course, harm to self or others, and a court order, as I stated. All counselors must ensure that all clients' records are kept secure in an appropriate recording keeping system. Private information to be taken only when it is beneficial to the client. Counselors must be aware and knowledgeable of confidentiality as it is stated in Section B of the ACA Code of Ethics. Legal concerns as far as referrals and fees. Counselors do not split fees or receive commission for referrals. Fees must be clearly stated and agreed upon in consent documents before services are rendered. Make sure you have a clear understanding with clients about what your fees are, what the charges will be, and get that in writing and have the client sign it. Third-party payments are payments received from an insurance company. Freedom of choice legislation. This type of legislation states that if healthcare providers are given access to licensed counselors, then they must also allow access to other mental health counselors such as psychiatrists and therapists. In the Freedom of Choice Healthcare Act, it states that not all states have eligibility for this Healthcare Act, which means that not all counselors are eligible for third-party payments. All personal, emotional, and sexual relationships should be avoided with clients to ensure that the counselor's judgment will not be impaired. And I'm still continuing legal concerns, but this is more personal matters. Avoiding counseling family and friends because there could be a conflict there. If a counselor agrees to take a client from a previous relationship or with whom they have had a past, the counselor must make sure all consent forms are filled out and supervision may be required to ensure that the counselor's judgment is not impaired. Counselors are continuously aware of the human rights of their clients. The questions that we were asked to answer. The first one was, how will school counselors or school counseling effectively address these issues as children continue to evolve? Because the generalizations of children constantly change, I do feel certain aspects of counseling will also have to evolve to meet their needs. But as far as the legal and ethical standards, I feel they will always have to be clearly stated to children for them to understand, especially the ones about confidentiality. With the new generation of children, technology is a big part of who they are. Because of this, I think the approaches used will have to be adjusted accordingly to meet the needs of these children as far as in technology aspects. I think a counselor will have to use technology or incorporate technology in presentations and things. I feel this video, how can school counselors benefit from the information shared in this video? I feel this video addresses a lot of the main legal and ethical concerns in the counseling field without overwhelming the reader. Some people feel overwhelmed when you give them too much information at one time. The points are clearly stated and easy to understand. After reading this information or watching the video, the reader should have a clear understanding of a counselor's job in regard to their responsibility and conduct. What ethical and legal standards should be addressed when considering this issue? In the counseling field, all legal and ethical standards are of equal importance, but when working with a student, the ones that pertain to that student and their issue are the most important at that time. A counselor must have a clear understanding and competence about all of the ethical and legal issues and must also know and accept their own limitations. In this issue, since it pertains to the legal and ethical concerns, all of the legal and ethical standards would apply. How does this impact the academic achievement of students and the general missions of the school? This assignment, all of the legal and ethical standards impact students in some way as far as their academic achievement. As far as the general mission of the school, the ethical and legal standards are part, a lot of the time, of a school's mission statement. Where I think the legal and ethical standards impact academic achievement the most is standardized testing. A counselor is the one who is in charge of administering the tests, making sure protocol is followed, and keeping the testing results secure until the appropriate time for them to be released. The school counselor also looks at the data from the test scores with other administrators to determine what measures need to be taken to improve strategic teaching to help drive teacher instruction. Again, my name is Heather Milner, and this was my video presentation. And this is the end. Thank you.